Too close for comfort? We travel to a Taiwanese island just kilometers from China. A display of military might, why President Taiwan took to the high seas to showcase Taiwan's defences. The oldest person to sail around Taiwan shows that age is just a number. And into the deep, the Navy ship taking on a new life at the bottom of the ocean. This is Fugui Lighthouse. It's on the northernmost point of Taiwan Island and it's almost completely surrounded by sea. Behind us is the East China Sea and the vast Pacific Ocean is out that way to the east. Why am I here? Well, for this Lunar New Year, we have a one-off special program celebrating Taiwan as an island nation. I'm Rik Glauert. Well, islands nation would actually be more accurate. The country is made up of nearly 200 big and small islands, including the main island, Taiwan. But Taiwan's outlying islands stretch hundreds of kilometres, from Matsu Islands nestled close to China's east coast, to Orchid Island or Lien off the southeast coast in the Pacific, not that far from the Philippines. We begin with a man who knows these waters and these coasts intimately. He recently became the oldest person to sail around Taiwan. Sandy Chi has the story.
A roaring welcome for 82-year-old Taiwan sailor, Zhan Zhenfeng.
Coach Zhan is coming onshore at Shizi Bay in southern Taiwan. Originally, he was expected to arrive on September 10, but with bad weather around the island, his arrival has been delayed. And today, he has finally finished his trip.
Back where he started his journey, Zhan is exhausted but excited, since he has been dreaming of this day for 40 years.
以前我是有一个要追梦，但是我现在这个年龄了，是要在圆梦。 但我今天很高兴告诉大家，我完成了。
The trip was not easy. Even getting started was a challenge.
其实这个早几年就是想做的，等我有空想做的时候，又时不我与，偏偏来一个武汉肺炎，结果19号就来宣布3级警戒，所以又误了我青春。我如果再往后延的话。
But even after overcoming the first obstacle, many more still awaited Zhan. He faced weak winds, strong currents, and large waves. And the only way for him to conquer these challenges was to paddle his way through with all his strength. After enduring these difficult hurdles, the moments of wonder were all the more special. The ocean is mysterious and full of surprises. And Zhan encountered some magical sights along the way.
与海豚共舞，因为我那东海岸，哇，绕过那个什么，鹅銮鼻，突然我看见咚，就画个圆圈圈，那个海豚，也一群群的，就陪着我们在旁边这样的爬。
It was an unforgettable moment for Zhan, and he wouldn't have experienced it without his team. He says he only finished his journey because of their tireless support. Zhan's effort to realize his dream was not only for himself. It was also a message to the younger generation. Zhan is known as Johnson to some of his students.
I think Coach Johnson loved the sea, loved the Taiwan, and he loved young people to face to the challenge and know how to plan and deal with the problem.
Before I left to report on the story, I didn't expect I would have my own magical moment. Shaking hands at sea with Zhan, who is known in Taiwan as the father of sailing. And I also became one of his students.
重量平衡，越往外面力道越大，所以这条刚好可以保持着产生一个小的倾斜角度。 像箭一般的冲出去。
Though Taiwan is surrounded by the ocean, sailing is not a popular sport here. The Chinese Taipei Sailing Association says this is probably because of a superstition passed on from older generations. They believe that the ocean is a dangerous place where accidents can happen. That's why people in the country tend to avoid water activities. Safe and sound back on shore, Coach Jan and his association have plans to help the public appreciate the fun and magic of sailing. As for what those plans are, he says, we'll just have to wait and see. As Naya Zhou, James Rayner, and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
This is Xiaoliuqiu Park. It was once a sprawling garbage dump, but has been transformed into an eco-park and tourism hotspot. Coral is growing back here in these protected waters, enticing tropical fish, and it's now one of northern Taiwan's top diving and snorkeling destinations. It's not the only place to make a splash when it comes to marine life. Taiwan has hundreds of dive spots, including, as Jaime Ocon reports, some that look like they come straight from a movie set.
For the first time in 20 years, divers are getting a look at this restored sea reef off the coast of Taiwan's eastern Hualien County. It was born from a scrapped warship. In 2002, part of the Yueyang was sunk to serve as the foundation for what marine specialists call a warship reef. Seeing how well that turned out has prompted local officials to take action to protect its growth.
我们要把它成立一个保护区，让我们这个海洋的这些底栖鱼类跟生物能够有一个庇护的场所。
The local government says it has successfully placed similar steel reefs in other areas along Taiwan's east coast. These reefs are now home to a variety of fish, coral, and other marine life, due partly to the strength of the metal and how it can withstand the elements.
钢铁礁是最具有距离的效果因为钢铁礁它是原本的整座的下去，沿岛的区域它不受台风的影响。
With the steel reefs proving to be an effective means of restoring the marine ecosystem, experts are optimistic that Taiwan's reefs can be rebuilt with the help of one warship at a time. James Rayner and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's marine tourism sometimes hits choppy waters. John Van Trieste reports on some of the issues facing the industry.
Marine life like this sea turtle is a big draw on the tiny coral island of Xiaoliuqiu, just off southern Taiwan. Every day, boatloads of visitors cross to the island, a sign of domestic tourism's post-pandemic recovery. But there are also visible signs of tourism's toll on the very ocean life people come to see. This is prompting Pingdong County, which governs the island, to consider imposing a tourism fee of around $2 for two popular island spots where visitors can watch life in the intertidal zone.
目前呢，仍处于本县海洋及渔业事务管理所内部的一个讨论、分析的一个阶段，所以目前呢，尚未形成政策。
But it's an idea that seems popular among locals and visitors alike.
至少也可以维护一下潮间带它的永续生存。合理，因为毕竟环境是大家一起维护。
Whether a fee is eventually imposed or not, the county's goal is to make sure the island's tourism industry can thrive without hurting the coral, fish, and turtles that keep it going. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
We're here at Keelung Harbour, one of Taiwan's major commercial and military ports. The armed forces here, like all over Taiwan, have been put to the test over the last year as tensions with Beijing remain at the highest they've been in decades. In July, Taiwan's president oversaw one of the largest displays of military might yet. I boarded a Taiwan Navy ship to bring you this report. A show of force from the Taiwanese military. They're hopeful that these maneuvers can deter a Chinese invasion. In just this one event, 20 ships, including a submarine, 15 fighter jets and 1 helicopter are participating. The full 5-day drills are the country's largest in decades and estimated to cost $200 million.
这个目的主要是为了向国人展现我们坚强的战力及捍卫海疆的决心。
China sits west, just across a narrow strait from Taiwan. Increasingly aggressive actions from Beijing, which includes sending fighter jets into Taiwan's air identification zone, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, have led Taiwan to re-examine its military strategies. These massive military exercises are taking place off Taiwan's east coast, facing away from China and toward the Pacific. But the message from these waters are clear. Equal to its enemy or not, Taiwan will fight to defend its freedoms with everything it's got. In a first, the nation's leader boards a destroyer to oversee the drills. President Tsai Ing-wen has pledged unprecedented defense spending to bolster and modernize the military.
全体水面作战支队的弟兄姐妹，刚才各位基石的操演， 展现了中华民国国军保家卫国的能力和决心。我们一起继续努力，守护家园。Good job.
This flexing of military muscle is just one part of a week of drills preparing the whole country for an attack. Air raid drills saw people shelter indoors, leaving streets empty, and reservists were called to participate in simulating a response to potential invasion. A clear indication that being ready for war is everyone's responsibility.
Exercise is very important to tell Taiwan people all over this island or even in Penghu, Jinmen, Matsu to know defense is very important, and to Taiwan, defense ourselves is above everything. If we didn't show our determination to defend ourselves, let our friend, in Taiwan, the countries or friendly to Taiwan will not, assist us. People have to help themselves. Then people could help you.
With this massive display of military might on the seas around Taiwan, the country hopes to demonstrate its determination through any trepidation that war might be close at hand. Chris Ma and Rik Glauert in Ilan County for TaiwanPlus. One of the closest places in Taiwan to China is the Matsu Islands. They're just kilometers off the Chinese coast. So how are people there dealing with the threat from Beijing? Well, our reporter Louise Watt traveled there to find out.
Taiwan's islands of Matsu used to be on the front lines of conflict. Even through the mist, a clear warning they're always poised for battle. "We sleep with our spears," the old slogan reads. At their closest point, these islands are just 10 kilometers from China, an easy target for President Xi Jinping and his communist forces if they decide to attack Taiwan. Tensions between Beijing and Taipei are at their highest in decades, with China increasingly sending military planes and ships to up the pressure on Taiwan, which it claims as part of its territory. But the people on Matsu are no longer so worried about a possible conflict.
这个船只都在我们周围，我们也没有怎么样啊，都觉得反正都很近啊。我们航班飞过来，都经过他们的领空进来了，也没有怎么样啊。所以我是觉得没什么呀。
不会担心，我们马祖很安全了，他不会打了，不会打了。
Taiwan has lived with the threat of invasion since it split from China in 1949. But it was the outlying islands like Matsu that were regularly shelled by China during a Cold War. And while signs of war are still everywhere in Matsu, people here have close ties with the giant on their doorstep. A shared dialect with Chinese in Fuzhou City across the water, trade and investment links, and family.
我们马祖这边跟中国人们几乎都是算是一起的，因为有很多大陆的也来到马祖这边定居。
Matsu can also feel cut off from the rest of Taiwan. From Matsu, it's just a 25-minute boat ride to China. But this is the ferry from Matsu to the Taiwan mainland. It takes 10 hours. There are much quicker flights to Taipei, but they're often cancelled because of fog. Against this relative isolation, residents in Matsu and other outlying islands, Kinmen, are pressing for the resumption of unique postal, travel and business connections with China. Known as the Mini Three Links, they are separate from the rest of Taiwan and stopped almost 3 years ago after the outbreak of COVID. Reopening them would help ease tensions, says Xiaoliuqiu, who previously served in various Matsu government departments. He's been collecting signatures to petition Taiwan's government to act.
那我们这边的生意就会做得比较更好。那不管在旅游业啦，或者是经济上面的互动啦，但是在政治上面，其实我认为我们跟他小三通以后，也会缓和两岸之间的缓冲剂。
Should conflict break out, many in Matsu feel that advances in technology must mean these islands are no longer a target.
现在的战争的观念，不是巷战，不是肉搏战，是决战在千里之外，这个叫做境外战争啦。那老公要打，他没有必要打2次嘛，打你马祖再打1次，再打台湾1次，没有这样子作战的啦。 他一定在境外就直接就打你台湾嘛。
For many here, the front lines and potential crisis have moved from Matsu to the Taiwan mainland. And to decrease the talk of war, the islanders say their closeness to China should be used instead to improve relations between the two sides. Damon Lin and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
It's not just ferries, sailboats and warships that traverse Taiwan's waters. There are traditional boats too. Every June, Taiwan celebrates the Dragon Boat Festival, and harbours like this one, called Bad Doldze, are transformed into racing venues. Our reporter, Louise Watt, caught up with one team that is fighting both to win their race and break down barriers.
With more than 100 members, Asia's largest LGBT dragon boat team has been training on this river for more than 6 years. Zhang Yikai, a nurse from Taichung in central Taiwan, is one of their newest members.
加入这个团队之后，我觉得可以认识更多的跟我一样的人，然后让我觉得不孤单。以外，我也可以让我就是更投入在运动里面。
左脚尖朝前，右脚尖朝右。
The all-male Rainbow Punch Dragon Boat team will be competing against dozens of others in the sport's most important event in Taipei to mark the traditional Dragon Boat Festival. But aside from that, one of their coaches says Rainbow Punch hopes to raise the profile of gay athletes in East Asia.
最感动的时刻大概就是在船上的时候，我们让彩虹旗飘扬在河道上。因为以往的运动队员，有时候他们会隐藏自己的身份，隐藏他们自己是同志这件事情，来让自己是安全的。
Public support for LGBT communities has grown in the past 3 years since Taiwan became the first and still the only country in Asia to allow same-sex marriage. But members of the team say it can still be hard to come out as gay because of traditional values and prejudice. And gay professional sportsmen are rare. At last year's Tokyo Olympics, there were only 4 openly gay competitors from Asia. All 4 were women. Rainbow Punch have been training for months, hoping to make waves in Taiwan's largest dragon boat race. But winning isn't the main thing for the team.
For us to show up in this event, is most important part is just trying to tell people we are out there. Yeah, we are Rainbow Punch, we can do it. Not just only straight guys, but all gay guys can do it. Yeah.
Beyond the championships, the members of Rainbow Punch hope to win more visibility and recognition for their efforts as athletes and who they are. James Rayner and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Another Taiwan dragon boat team took things in a different direction, quite literally. They paddled all the way to the outlying island of Penghu. John Van Trieste has this story.
With a confident cheer, a team of rowers sets off at the crack of dawn, steering their dragon boat out of Budai Harbor on Taiwan's west coast. The goal is the Penghu Islands, a chain in the middle of the Taiwan Strait. Modern ferries make the crossing in around 90 minutes, but rowing across the 56 kilometers of waves will take around 10 hours. This will be the first time the crossing is attempted in a dragon boat. The team ranges in experience from a 14-year-old trainee kayaker to a kayaker who's represented Taiwan abroad. But unlike in solo kayaking, the key here will be teamwork. Everyone is in the same boat.
风浪会大很多，看全队的默契配合。
Ultimately, safety at sea comes first.
有3组桨手在替换，然后旁边的接入艇也都做好安全工作。
After 10 hours, the rowers finally reach their destination, where locals set off firecrackers in welcome. For the rowers, the dragon boat crossing has been a success of teamwork, strength, and grit, and they've achieved something no one else has done before. Damon Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
To find out a little bit more about the islands of Penghu, Andrew Ryan spent some time with the county chief to see how they're preparing to welcome back the tourists as international travel resumes.
A pair of hearts used for catching fish, an underwater national park, and a cactus cocktail. These are just some of the things you'll find in Penghu, an island chain once known as the Pescadores, or Fisherman Islands in Portuguese.
With over 90 islands, Penghu is the largest archipelago in all of Taiwan. And as you can see, it's a great place for some fun in the sun. But strangely enough, for our first stop today, we're headed somewhere where the sun don't shine. So where's the Penghu County Chief taking us?
这个地方呢，就是龙门的避暑胜地。亮起来了。就是日本啊占领澎湖的时候，我们的村民啊挖出来的一个避暑阵地哦。
That was more than 100 years ago. After the Japanese left in the late 1940s, Taiwan's army took over the tunnel and used it as a base for preventing beach landings by Chinese troops. The county chief gives me a tour of the underground labyrinth, which is more than 700 meters long. In some places, it's only 60 centimeters wide. And with the soundtrack of explosives piped in on speakers, it feels like we've landed in a Cold War movie. The tunnel can hold 150 soldiers, and there's everything from a kitchen to a munitions depot and bunkers for sharpshooters. Now what's fascinating is the tunnel fell into disuse and lay hidden underground for years until it was discovered in 2009. They opened it up to the public in 2020, a century after it was first built. And the descendants of the people who dug the tunnels, well, they're now the caretakers. They cleaned up the area above ground and gave it the name Marine Debris Park.
你看那个都很便宜的东西啊，都是海惠啊，海上飘来的，捡回来的。 这样子把它一点一滴把它做成，海会是国际的潮流，但是呢，澎湖人呐，在地球的这一个小角落，每个人呐都弯下腰来，然后把海会捡起来。
The county is also preparing to welcome back, get this, cruise ships.
我们现在呢已经在盖这个深水码头，那么将来可以停国际邮轮大概是75000吨。
So what can tourists do in Penghu? The obvious answer is water sports. But the county chief says there's a good reason why you might want to come for the culture too.
澎湖的历史文化是早于台湾。澎湖呢有4次战争，第1次跟第2次都是跟荷兰。那么澎湖呢在400多年以前呢就开始接触到西方的文物。 第3次呢是法国来占领澎湖，第4次呢就是日本。
所以其实澎湖从很早以前就跟国际接轨过。
对。
Penghu is also home to Taiwan's oldest temple dedicated to Matsu, the goddess of the sea. She's revered by seafaring peoples across Asia, so it's no surprise that she's popular in a place where boating, fishing, and seafood are all part of everyday life. Now, no trip to Penghu would be complete without some island hopping, but don't expect to visit all 90 islands.
有些无人岛你是没有办法上去的，像我们那个东海很多岛都是冤鸥他们房子的地方，那个都是环保区，不能上去。有一些是迁村大概我如果有印象的话，大概20几个岛上去过了。
Lai suggests a trip to see one of Penghu's most iconic symbols.
七美一个很有名的就是双星石斧，在古早以前我们澎湖祖先的智慧，他把石斧围好了以后，在石中捉鱼。
Before I leave Penghu, I decide to visit the historic village of Erkan on the island of Xiaoliuqiu. It's a 400-year-old settlement that's home to the Chen family. One of the Chens, Xiaoliuqiu, has been making drinks from prickly pears, the local cactus fruit. She pairs them with ingredients like pineapples lemons, and yogurt.
那还可以加就是啤酒嘛哈，就像调酒，像鸡尾酒，它叫梦中情人。
是喝完之后就会遇到你的梦中情人吗？
对，应该哦。
Cheers. That's delicious. Has a little bit of a kick because of the alcohol. It's got some lemon to make it nice and sour. And of course the beautiful red fruit, this prickly pear, which everybody just calls cactus here. Great stuff. Thank you.
There's one final stop in my trip to Penghu, a place called Daguoye at the southern tip of Xiaoliuqiu. It's home to a breathtaking expanse of volcanic rock.
澎湖遍地都是玄武岩，柱状玄武岩很漂亮澎湖呢，事实上就是上帝的石雕公园。在于这种地形地势这个老外就会赞赏不绝了。
What's amazing about these rock formations is that they lay hidden below the surface of the earth for centuries. It wasn't until the Japanese came here in the early 1900s and began digging to create a harbor that they discovered these magnificent columns. And that's what I love about Penghu. You may come here prepared with all sorts of things to do while you're here, but every time, without fail, there are new things waiting for you to discover.
Kama Xu, Alex Chen, Peachy Zhuang, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus.
Andrew's adventure brings our own trip around Taiwan waters to a close. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus. I'm Rik Glauert. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Have a wonderful Lunar New Year full of joy, laughter, food and drink, and we will see you next time.